Perfect World Games needs to fix Tower Fantasy Global. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it. Tower Fantasy is flawed, especially under Level Infinite's tenure. I think the Global has seen a far more steep decline than Tower Fantasy CN that is under directly Perfect World Games and Hotta Studios. And while a lot of Global's issues have been fixed over time, I think a few issues that are not Level Infinite's fault. And one of them being which is the forced story skip. For those who don't know what I'm talking about, Hotta Studios introduced a forced story skip within the first chapter of the game, following Shirley's near death. You know, she almost turned into an aberrant, stuff like that. And a few minutes later, we ended up going to Hycros for the first time. And then after a little bit of dialogue, all of a sudden, we get our memories uploaded into our body. And if you don't know what those memories that were uploaded into our body are, it was actually the entire 1.0 story. The entire 1.0 story, the foundation of the game, the foundation that defines the rest of the experience in 2.0, 3.0, and 4.0 story, which is heavily based on 1.0, is skipped. This leaves players who play these anime games for story completely lost. Heading into the 2.0 story without any context, they just suddenly see Shirley as a half robot cyborg and that she needs to find her brother that they tracked in the Vera region. And I felt bad. Like, I actually ended up replaying the story when I made an account on the CN server, the classic server reboot server, and which is really good. Maybe I'll make a video on that. And like, I ended up hitting Alt F4. Like, I quit out the game. I had secondhand embarrassment by how bad of an experience that was if I was a new player just coming into the game. Like, they played like a 25-second clip. Maybe I'll put it on screen if I have footage, recapping the entire 1.0 story, which is just clips of certain cutscenes without context. And then you just reappear back in Hycros after the cutscene, and they're like, "Hey, your memories are uploaded. You remember all that? Yeah, now go to the new desert region with cyborg Shirley. You know how she was just dying like 10 minutes ago? She's a cyborg now, and you have to go find her brother." It's just like, really? Come on, Hada. So what I think Perfect World Games needs to do, not just for global, is not to make the 1.0 story a side story, because that's what it is. It's when you put it on a quest marker, it is a blue quest, meaning it's a side story. And so it was kicked out of the main story, I guess, for being so bad. And I understand 1.0 story isn't that great. I actually enjoy having human antagonists like the Sage, the Angels of Clemency, the Heirs of Ida. I enjoy having enemies I can reason with. I can see where they're coming from rather than like the gray space entities. I don't like the Hive Mother. I didn't like the Alteration Virus or the Darkness. I don't like incoherent, just screaming enemies that attack things that are around it. I don't like that because I can't relate to them. So I actually enjoyed the Sage. I enjoyed the 1.0 villains and their motive, and I think it's a great disservice to new players to just skip all of that in the name of quality of life. I don't think it's QOL. Like, I think you make the game worse by doing that. And I think even there were some parts of the 1.0 story that were cut out. Like, there was like a boss fight where you're shooting ship down, and then like a monster, someone transforms into a monster. Like, they drug themselves, they turn into a monster. If I have footage of that, maybe it's playing right now. But yeah, all of that was cut out. And there was also a scene where you're defusing a bomb on Hycros when you first get there, and you have to like time retrace yourself to stop the explosion because you failed the first time or something like that. All of that was cut out the story. I think it should all come back. I think the whole 1.0 story should be put back into the main story. It should not be a side quest. It's too important to be a side quest. And they should optimize the 1.0 story, maybe shorten the bad parts. Because I don't think anyone really cared about the Cetus Island part of the story or the Crown Mines virus. I don't like either of those. I don't think they're that important. Maybe shorten those somehow, but obviously the 1.0 story needs to be there. But yeah, that's kind of my criticism on the 4 story skip. I think it deletes new players from the game. Like, it's such a bad first impression because people actually do get attached to Shirley. I don't think I've heard any bad criticism about Shirley as a character. She's just solid all around. And people care about Shirley, bro. Like, look at all these posts that I see on Reddit, bro. All these posts I see on Reddit be like, what just happened? I'm in Vera now. Shirley's a cyborg. How can I go back? Can I get my old level again? People wanted to continue to see what happened to Shirley. People want to go on that adventure with her. And Hada, you are robbing people of that experience. And I think Perfect World needs to put their foot down and really just say, hey, we gotta fix this. Like, do something, man. We got to reincorporate that 1.0 story because, like, I played 4.6. I know what's gonna happen in 4.7. You guys care about the story. You guys are cooking something, and people need to know what happened in the beginning. I also don't like that you guys are offering people to skip straight to the mecha stuff in the very beginning of the game. Like, the mecha stuff is cool, but it ain't cool enough to skip everything, man. Let them play the game. Let them get a handle on it. Let them get used to normal combat, and then they can work their way up to learning about the mechas. It's like, don't, come on, lock in. We need you to lock in, Hotta. Perfect World Games, fix Tower Fantasy Global, fix Tower Fantasy as a whole. Please optimize this. We care about the game. That's why we're still here. Even if it's a very few of us, we still care. So we need you to guys to care too. Level Infinite clearly didn't care anymore. They weren't making money. So please lock in, fix Tower Fantasy. Thank you for listening.